All right, welcome to the series conclusion of Samson. We finished it last week, and we're going to wrap it up this week. All right, so I have a bunch of notes here. So let's just kind of get a framework of what we're talking about. We started Samson many moons ago, type 1. The question with Samson was, what is Samson? What is his mazel? Who is he? We looked at chapter 13, where we met his parents, a man named Manoach. Upon further investigation, we met his mother, who's not named explicitly in the verses, and we found out her name was Hatzelponi, one of the most righteous Ger women that ever lived, so we found out. If the series only served to give us Hatzelponi, it was worth it. That led us to the women of valor in the Midrash. Many wonderful things came out of that. I don't even know if we appreciate how many wonderful things came out of that. We met Manoach, and it looks like he was the patriarch of the messianic character Sarya ben Dan. He has all the signs. Number one, Samson is one of the archetypes of Sarya ben Dan. And the union of Dan and Yehuda, just like Bezalel and the guy from Dan who made the Mishkan. This is a reiteration throughout the Torah. So then the angel came with Hatzelponi, and we learned about the priesthood functioning like prophecy, i.e. Pinchas, the man of God that came to Hatzelponi, and then over to Manoach, and he wrestled the angel. The story was an encapsulation of almost the most essential parts of the Torah. Jacob and the angel, Pinchas, redemption. Samson is almost like cherry-picking the most essential parts of the greater story of Israel, and then putting it together and making a micro story. So we're not going to rehash each class, but go back and listen to the previous classes and really pay attention to the nuggets. When we got to the last verse, 13:25, that's when everything became clear. And as much as I'm not going to elaborate why each of these points are points that I'm going to mention, these are extracted from the final verse, the commentaries, and it puts everything that came previously in a proper context. Again, it will be a waste of time to rationalize why these points are. Let's just assume that these are the points. Point number 1. How many of you have ever heard of Jacob? Anyone ever hear of Jacob? Jacob gave over, or attempted to give over, the prophecy of the end of days to his children, type 1. This is what's known as Giloi Yaakov, the revelation of Yaakov, the prophecy of Yaakov. That revelation was given over to the Vilna Gaon. This was written about in several of his Kabbalah Sfarim. That he merited the revelation of Eliyahu and of Yaakov. Is anyone aware of the connection between Yaakov and Eliyahu? There's a Vav at the end of Eliyahu, and sometimes there's a Vav in the name Yaakov. Sometimes Eliyahu's missing his Vav, and sometimes Yaakov has his Vav. The two are connected by the Vav. So it is said that all knowledge and wisdom of the time of the end of the Mashiach is known as the prophecy of Yaakov. And we're saying that Yaakov's prophecy was realized in Samson, and the tribe of Dan is a natural habitat to Yaakov's prophecy. That's why Yaakov said, for your salvation I hope Hashem. That Yaakov's essential prophecy level naturally exists in Dan. Dan is a vessel for it. Samson realizes that. He is the realization of that. How many of you have ever heard of Judah? And that Judah was given the kingly blessing. Why? Because David was most apropos to come to light through Judah. Right? Judah served to deliver us David. Dan served to deliver us Samson and to be the location of Yaakov's essential prophecy. We call this level of all encapsulation Sarya ben Dan. It's a character brought in Kol HaTorah, the Vilna Gaon's Shulchan Aruch of Redemption. It's brought in the Zohar, the Rizal, Kabbalistic writings. And the function of Sarya ben Dan is he helps the angel Metatron, who's Mashiach ben Yosef, defeat Armilus. Some call Sarya ben Dan Mashiach ben Dan. There's a Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben Ephraim. There's a Mashiach ben Menashe, and a Mashiach ben Dan. These are allegorical terms and functions for archetype souls. We mentioned that the story of Samson is the world's first counter-missionary story. Right? Everything that we know about Samson is it's an amazing story. The church tried to rip it off with the 180-degree rule. So really what the counter-missionaries, we said, should be doing is teaching Samson. Teach Samson there is no Yeshu. You don't even have to make up the stupid story. So the Talmud talks about Samson and says that Samson uprooted two great mountains and ground one against the other. Type 1. Type 1. Now, that's an allegory. That's a midrash. It's an agadata. Is that a 1 or 2? We'll say that's a 1. So we're probably not going to call it literal, that Samson literally grabbed mountains and uprooted them and smashed them. So let's look at it from a deeper angle. How many of you have ever heard of Kol HaTorah? I just mentioned it 2 seconds ago. The Shulchan Aruch to Redemption. In Kol HaTorah, which, by the way, will be translated soon, relatively soon. And when we launch the new yeshiva, we're going to, one of the classes is going to be in teaching what is called 156 aspects of Mashiach ben Yosef. It's part of Kol HaTorah. And one of the main functions of Kol HaTorah is gematria. Who knows what gematria is? Gematria. Numerical values for words. I saw a sefer that says what gematria is. Gai Matria. Gai is a valley. Matria is from two mountains. So the gematria is the valley between two mountains. Then in Kol HaTorah it mentions Toria, two mountains. So a lot of times you'll find Joshua is the Toria of Mashiach ben Yosef. There's a mountain called Mashiach ben Yosef, and Joshua is in the Toria of that. He's in that mountain. Another mountain is Mashiach ben David. Another mountain would be, let's say, the Gematria 741. Kind of like stockpiles. So when you have these mountains, Iker concepts that have symbolic gematria, i.e. Mashiach ben Yosef is synonymous with 566. It's gematria. Then you can say that when Abraham said, how do I know I'll inherit the land? That has the gematria 566. So you see that there's two mountains, what Abraham said, and Mashiach ben Yosef, and the valley between them has a common gematria. That style is employed in Kol HaTorah. And we see that Samson allegorically fulfills that. Two great mountains that are uprooted and ground one against the other. That is a textbook definition. Especially since Kol HaTorah is one of the only books on the planet that even mentions Sarya ben Dan. Sarya ben Dan, a direct reiteration of Samson. It's not a coincidence or an accident. It would be a stretch if it was a stretch, but it's not a stretch. You couple that with the Vilna Gaon had revelation of Yaakov, and you see that the function of Kol HaTorah is Sarya ben Dan. The Spirit of God is what's encapsulated in that book. That's what Samson had, was Ruach Hashem, a Ruach of Gevurah. What is a Ruach of Gevurah? The ability to see Gevurot Niflaot, wondrous mights, wondrous might, or mights. So it's the eye needs to be trained to see something wonderful. God doesn't pick up mountains and throw them. Even though he can, he chooses not to. All of the apocalyptic endings in the prophets, people are looking for mountains flying through the air, which it could happen, but it most likely won't. So Samson, Sarya ben Dan, Kol HaTorah, teaches us how to perceive God's mighty, wondrous acts. Having amunah, the wisdom and amunah to deal with the miraculous God. That Ruach, that Holy Spirit, was fashioned in Samson, passed down from Jacob. The footsteps of the Messiah journal what God is doing. And perceiving God like a lookout. That's why it says with Samson, as he walked about, the Spirit came with him. When he was on the way, he came sometimes. Dan is in the encampment. So there's conditions that cater to a time of sorry been done. It comes with the power of the name of God. It's like the name of it's like a name of God that is a Holy Spirit upon man. That's why Samson had to get it in this way from the angel, from the parents. That's sorry been done. It says that Samson was a magain on his generation. Just like God is a magain over the world, a shield. How many of you have ever heard of the shield of David? Magen David. That's what sorry been done is. He is the Magen David, shield of David, which is why Dan comes with Judah every time. Just like it's the aspect of a general, or the leadership, or even the staff in Moses' hand, Metatron. All of these are aspects of sorry been done. There's something called Magen Avraham. That when Abraham is being Abraham, God shows favor. Sorry been done is another version of that. Perhaps you can say when you be you. When Mashiach would just be Mashiach. He's protected with sorry been done, the Magin. And ultimately, we'll conclude. Samson fights alone without help. All of these are power given to Mashiach. Sorry been done is the power given to Mashiach to fight against Armilus. And part of that power is the processing power that we find in Kol HaTorah. All of this is called sorry been done. The story was created through Samson, his parents, the prophet / angel. I hope you enjoyed Sorry Been Done and Samson. And that concludes the series.